love salads. Being South African, we eat them 365 days of the year. But it can be quite difficult to persuade people to eat a crunchy salad in the depths of winter. So bring on my jeweled winter coleslaw. So for this, you're going to need a red cabbage, just for something a little bit different, celeriac, orange, and pomegranate. So celeriac is this wonderful vegetable over here. It's the root, the rhizome of the celery plant. So it's lovely and sweet, it's crunchy, and it's delicious both raw and cooked. So I'm going to show you how to deal with this, how to segment an orange, and how to open up a pomegranate. So for your celeriac, you might not need a whole celeriac for your recipe. So just sort of do half of it at a time. So the very outer layer you can either attack with a knife, or I've got this lovely sharp peeler over here that will peel almost anything, including a celeriac or butternut squash. Now you need to work quite quickly because celeriac wants to discolor. Get rid of all your peelings. And we're going to cut a thin sheet of the celeriac off and then into little ribbons. So get yourself a nice big sharp knife. There's one sheet. And you can carry on going until you've done about half of the celeriac. If this is too big for you to manage, by all means, only use half. So there you can see the inside of it. It's a lovely fibrous vegetable. So really good for you. Pile your sheets on top of one another and gently rock your blade across. You can go much slower, of course. You can just take sort of one sheet at a time like that if you're struggling a little bit. But the idea is to get them as thin as possible into little matchsticks. Because the vegetable is quite fibrous, we don't want to have big lumps of it. Alternatively, of course, you can just use the coarse end of a box grater and just grate your celeriac. Absolutely no problem there. And some people have a food processor with a special grater attachment. That's another option. So there's some more celeriac going in there. I did some earlier on that was even finer. That will do. And then our cabbage. This is always a tricky one because cabbage is very, very fibrous. So delicious in a coleslaw, but you don't want big lumps of it. So if you want to grab hold of your head of cabbage, you can also buy half heads of cabbage if this is too much for you. There we go. Absolutely gorgeous color. And with a very sharp knife, just cut tiny little slivers of the cabbage, and that should come out nice and fine for you. Or, of course, you can take a handheld mandolin and just grate it across the cabbage. So probably the one that causes a lot of problems for people, because they don't quite know how to deal with it, it's an unusual fruit, is a pomegranate. So I have some over here already. Now, you can buy pomegranate that has already been de-seeded, but the problem is it's not going to be as fresh as you doing it yourself. So pomegranate, very old, very ancient fruit, dates back to biblical times. It's said that the apple that Eve tempted Adam with was in fact a pomegranate and not the apple as we know today. So just slice it open and watch you'll see there's lots and lots of little seeds separated by quite a fibrous membrane. So the easiest thing to do, I think, rather than messing about with the label, is just to break it apart. That is quite fibrous. Do this over a bowl actually. And what you'll find is that the little seeds will pop out. So just with your fingers, you can see very, very easy to do. Just work them out of the membranes. Now, it will stain your fingers, so by all means, wear some plastic gloves if you find it easier. This one is quite young, so it's a paler color, so it's not going to do such a bad job of staining me. So there we go, get rid of the little membranes, and you should have good quantity of pomegranate seeds to use. So we've got our vegetables prepared. The last one we need to do is an orange. So quite often a recipe for a salad will ask you to segment an orange. So how to get in there and how to deal with it. So we're going to top and tail our orange. Now it's much easier with a little knife, to be honest. Okay. And then, following the curve of your orange, you're going to slice off the skin and as much of the membrane as you can, but at the same time, you don't want to lose too much flesh. So this is the first time you're going to go around it. Flip it over and just do the last little bit. Okay. Now you'll find with oranges, there's lots of different varieties of oranges. And my dad is a citrus farmer for Outspan in South Africa. So I've grown up on a citrus farm, very, very fortunate. So you'll get oranges with pips in them and without pips. The ones with pips tend to be juicing oranges, and the one without pips tend to be the eating oranges. So what you need to do for your salad is select hopefully an eating orange, but even a few pips won't make a difference. So you'll see here we've peeled our orange, we've got rid of most of the pith, and what we want is to leave the membrane behind. We just want the segments in the middle. So over your bowl, take your little sharp knife, and just inside each little segment, see how easy that popped out? Really easy. Now this is very, very juicy orange, it's absolutely delicious orange. So you will find a lot of juice will come out, and that's absolutely fine because we're going to capture it over the bowl. And look, you just carry on going until all the orange segments are out. And what you'll be left with is just the pithy membrane. So you can see there that I've started that process and most of it is done. So our vegetables are prepared. We've now got just a few extra flavors that we're going to add. So some apricots. These are dried apricots. And you might wonder why they're this brown color. It's because they haven't had any sulfur added to them. Sulfur is a natural preservative that's added to dried fruit. But your body only needs small quantities of sulfur. So try and avoid it as much as possible in dried fruit and other foods. So they will taste exactly the same, just minus the sulfur and minus the bright orange color. So the last thing I have left to do is just to mix up a little dressing. I'm going to do a very, very simple little Dijon mustard dressing. So I have a little Dijon mustard here. Start off with a small bit. You can always add a little bit more later. And for a little bit of a tang, some apple cider vinegar. It's lovely organic apple cider vinegar. Little squeeze. This will just go really well as a dressing for our coleslaw. And then the oil I'm going to use is an olive oil, but quite a mild olive oil, or you can use a rapeseed oil. Now you need to emulsify this, meaning you need to beat it up vigorously until the dressing is sort of a homogeneous, milky color, and that means that the acid and the oil have mixed together. Now this will need a little bit of seasoning, so seasoning being salt and pepper, and that's just going to balance the flavors for us. You give this a little taste. Okay. So by tasting, we can decide do we want more vinegar, do we want more olive oil, honey. Oh, that's actually really nice. I'm going to leave that as is. Nice balance between the sweetness and the tartness. So it's now just to assemble our salad. So generous handfuls of our julienne celeriac, some of our finely sliced red cabbage, generous sprinkling of herbs. So I've just got a mixture of herbs here, some unusual things like some chervil and some tarragon, but even parsley will do. The jeweled part of our jeweled winter salad. The oranges. Looks fantastic, doesn't it? Just breaking up our apricots and then a bit of dressing. Start off with a little bit of dressing because your salad should just glisten. It shouldn't be saturated with dressing. And each of our vegetables has got such a glorious taste that we don't need to overdo it in the dressing. So gently just toss everything together. Wipe down your bowl. Rearrange some of the orange so it's at its best. Some more pomegranate, a little bit more parsley and fresh herbs. And there we have it. A salad to see you through the winter time. Our jeweled winter coleslaw.